What's up, everyone? Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we jump in, a couple quick things here. Of course, big shout out to sponsors of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a couple of different services. One of them is to obtain a Canadian or US dollar loan. There's a simple application process, takes a couple of minutes, and if you're approved, your bank account is typically funded within 24 hours. I've done it a couple times myself, and it works like a charm. And secondly, they've just started offering a Bitcoin savings account where you can earn monthly interest on your Bitcoin paid in Bitcoin, not in dollars, in Bitcoin. So they have a current compounded rate of 5.1%. So yeah, feel free to check that out. Also, if you use the link I provide down below and you do end up getting a loan, well, they will also credit your account with an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin. So be sure to check that out. And secondly, I have been on a big privacy kick lately with a lot of talk about Wasabi Wallet and CoinJoin and all that kind of stuff. Well, on the other side of that, privacy is paramount when you're dealing with cryptocurrency, and having a VPN can help that immensely. So NordVPN helps mask your IP address. It encrypts your browser history. So it's very important. I use it on my laptop, on my phone, on basically every device I have. It can also help you unlock geo-locked content. So perhaps you're trying to access a website that's not available in your country. Well, a NordVPN can help you do that because you basically set the country that it looks like you're in. Furthermore, if you've ever torrented anything and you aren't using a VPN, what are you doing with your life? So if you click the link that I've provided below, you can get 75% off. And even if you don't end up using Nord, please do look into a VPN. They are very important. And with that, let's dive into the news. So Bitcoin price in relation to Tether. This has been an ongoing conversation for years now, basically ever since Tether became a major foothold in cryptocurrency itself. So if you're not privy to what Tether is, it's a stable coin backed by US dollars. So when you pay into Tether, they basically print up some newly created Tether, and it's supposed to be one-to-one backing. So for every US dollar they hold, well, there's a single Tether created. However, it's recently come out that that is currently not the case, and that it was indeed fractional reserve, and there's some on loan to Bitfinex. It's this whole complicated mess, but regardless, just know it's a token pegged to the US dollar. And so it seems to look like the price of Bitcoin and the creation of Tether tend to be linked quite closely. So you can see them here. So you can see that Tether is very kind of choppy in the way that it moves, in that it can be created and destroyed depending on whether people are putting in dollars or taking out dollars. But you can see here that when a lot of Tether was destroyed and pulled out, well, you see the price of Bitcoin tanking. Alternatively, you can see when the price of Bitcoin goes up, before that, you can see that Bitcoin or that Tether was created. So it stands to reason that when somebody puts money into Tether, they're likely about to use it to obtain more cryptocurrency, in this case, Bitcoin, and possibly others. Well, we can see here that currently on the chart that the number of Tether created recently have gone up a fair amount. And also you can see that the price of Bitcoin has yet to follow that up. But as you can see from the rest of the chart here, it tends to lag. So you can see all this Tether disappearing, and then shortly thereafter, the price of Bitcoin going down. This was that big drop from 6K down to about 3K near the end of December or kind of mid-December 2018, and the subsequent rise, you can see again Tether starting to get printed and Bitcoin kind of coinciding with that, and then even more Tether being printed, and then the subsequent pump from Bitcoin. Well, it's continued to go up as far as number of Tether printed, and we've yet to see Bitcoin follow that, but there's a good possibility that we could, if this correlation continues the trends that we've seen in the past. And if you're wondering what the numbers here on the side are, it's in the kind of, if we were to reach the same kind of level, you're looking at well over 10,000, so like 11, 12K, somewhere in there, to reach similar levels. Interesting. We'll see if that pans out. Where are we at right now? Well, we're sitting about 79.30. We've been kind of bumping up against that 8K range again. Just the other day, we were slightly over it and came back down, but we've just been popping around in this range the past couple days here. The only other interesting thing going on right now, again, is Litecoin. It has been on quite a tear, and as I was saying yesterday, I think that is likely in relation to a bit of a having FOMO pump. So the issuance of new Litecoin gets cut in half every 4 years, just like Bitcoin. Well, this is Litecoin's year to have a cut in issuance, and that will happen in about just shy of 2 months. And if you look back historically to 2015, the last time this happened, about a month prior, there is a pretty sizable pump in the price of Litecoin, followed by a quick crash back downwards. But it did kind of retain some of those gains following that. So will that happen again? Anybody's guess, but it seems to be looking that it's at least starting to follow that trajectory, and I guess we'll just have to watch and see over the coming month or so if that's the case, and if we see that kind of FOMO spike and then drop right after like last time. So I guess strap in and watch the show. Moving on here, Lightning Network, the next release of Lightning Network is going to include something called Watchtowers. So what are Watchtowers? Well, the way that Lightning works is you have channels between different people's nodes where essentially money is locked up in that channel and it can move to and from. And all that you're really doing is you're doing regular Bitcoin transactions in the sense that you're saying that you're creating a contract of who will be owning what Bitcoin once that contract is settled. So you can imagine if I had 10 Bitcoin and I had an open channel to you, that 10 Bitcoin can be distributed differently between the two of us. So maybe it starts with 10 Bitcoin on my end of the channel and you sell me something and I send you a Bitcoin. Maybe you sell me a used car and I basically sign a contract saying out of this 10 Bitcoin, one of those Bitcoin is yours. And if we were to close that channel, then it would settle on chain, on the Bitcoin blockchain, with myself having 9 Bitcoin and you having 1. Well, we don't need to close that channel right away, and we can go back and forth with multiple different types of transactions before ever closing that channel. However, it is required that we be online in order to constantly update and check that channel. And if you had sold me a few different cars and we had made multiple transactions and I had updated the contract to say that I have 5 Bitcoin and you have 5 Bitcoin, and you went offline for an extended period of time, I could feasibly try to cheat and broadcast a different version of the contract, one of the previous ones. Perhaps when you had only sold me the one used car, and I still have 9 Bitcoin and you only have 1, I could try and close the channel with that old contract and basically steal 4 Bitcoin from you. Well, what Watchtowers do is they constantly take a peek, even if one of the users is offline, they are constantly looking at the most recent contract. And if somebody tries to close a channel with an old state of the channel or an old contract, well, they will penalize the person trying to do that by taking their Bitcoin and giving it to the opposite side of the channel. So it's essentially fighting fraud on the Lightning Network without having to be online. This also, because Lightning Network is still in beta, technology like this is very, very useful. That's why there are limits to how much Bitcoin you can have in a channel, because you want to mitigate the risk on those type of things. And so with this technology starting to roll out, you can expect to see it being a little bit safer to have channels with higher values allocated to them. So awesome to see. Glad to see that the Lightning Network continues to chug on, and I hope the kind of rundown of what Watchtowers are and how channels work was somewhat helpful to you. Let's move on here. I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed with this news because I do use Telegram. By the way, if you're not on Telegram in my channel, feel free to pop in. It's just a bunch of us kind of shooting shit back and forward, posting relevant articles, things that we want to chat about. No scammy crap in there, no ICOs. Unlike Telegram itself, which is going ahead with an ICO. And it hurts me to say it because I do really like using Telegram. I'm a little bit sad. It seems like nothing more than a cash grab. So Telegram, in 2018, they raised $1.7 billion through a private raise. So not to regular everyday investors, not to you and I per se, and they were looking at doing an ICO, but then they kind of shelved that idea for a while because the SEC started to focus quite a bit on ICOs, and it looks like they weren't going to do it anymore. Well, it turns out that they are indeed back to doing an ICO. It's called the Gram token sale, and it's going to be in partnership with the Liquid cryptocurrency exchange. So the quote here: "We are excited to be partnering with Gram Asia to launch the Gram token sale, which is wonderful news to our community who are native users of Telegram. We share the vision for a more secure and open value transfer system in order to enable the mainstream adoption of cryptocurrencies." So, what are they trying to do here? It kind of just seems they just want a token that people can pay each other with, which is about as useless as the one that Kik was trying to do. The difference here is they're hedging their bets in that they're not allowing a lot of different countries to participate, namely the US, Canada, South Korea, Japan, and others. Not only that, but you have to go through full KYC to partake in this. So like we're talking like ID and all that kind of crap. Government interested investors will have to submit to a government and photo ID verification exercise. So essentially, unless you've got like fake ID and you can really get past that, you're probably not partaking in the Telegram ICO if you're anywhere in North America. Again, I kind of had an inkling that ICOs were going to continue to be a thing. They would just be done more or less illegally, or they would just try to geo-block places where they weren't allowed to do it. But I'm sure that North American investors will find ways to weasel in there and partake in stuff like this. I don't know. The cash grab continues. Telegram, for shame. It's really not offering anything to the ecosystem, so lame. Moving on, 300 new Bitcoin ATMs installed just last month in May, so a yearly high. So 306 Bitcoin ATMs were installed in May 2019. They obviously are trying to increase support for multiple currencies. They're trying to capture as much of the market as they can. And we're approaching the 5,000 Bitcoin ATM worldwide milestone. Now, of course, this number 306 does not take into account the number of ATMs that have gone offline. So if you take that into account, the net positive growth is 228 for the month. And however, it's not quite the highest. The highest was 256, which was in April 2018, as we were starting to dive into the bear market. But nonetheless, it shows that there's continued interest. Now, I will advise, if you are looking at Bitcoin ATMs, please do pay attention to the prices and check local prices on other exchanges, just because the fees can be expensive, so you have to be cognizant of what you are spending. Part of the draw for some of these machines is the lack of KYC AML that comes along with it, depending on where you're from. Here in Canada, a lot of the time it is at least requires like a mobile number, but I know in the US it's much more intensive. You have to scan your ID, stuff like that. And then in other locations, it's literally cash in, Bitcoin out. So yeah. Overall, I think this is a positive thing. Anything that gives people more access and people get to choose whether or not they use them. Also, with more competition, those fees are likely to come down because they're trying to beat each other out and take more of the market. So you got to be competitive. So wonderful. And with that, guys, I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, smash that like button, hit the little bell notification, because the first time this airs, I am always in the side chat chatting everyone up. And if you want to help the show, of course, hit up Ledn for Bitcoin-backed loans. Check out Nord if you don't have a VPN. And if you really enjoyed what you saw, you can drop me a Bitcoin tip via Lightning Network on my tippin.me page. All of that is linked down below. With that, I'm out. Thank you, guys. Have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow for your daily session.